Hey, what's up guys? In this video, I'm going to show you how to actually build the Google homepage. And that's that. What I'm going to do is, this video is for someone who's beginner to intermediate. In these videos, I just try to demonstrate how to actually build something. A lot of people spend time on, high level stuff. I actually just want to show you how to build real things. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to build the homepage of Google. For the sake of the tutorial, I'm not going to be doing all of the fancy like little details, the stuff at the top and bottom. I'm just going to keep it simple, to build the core of the page, which is basically just this main area. So just follow along. I'm not going to go into details on this video on my setup. I'll have that in another video, but I use Sublime as a text editor, and I have some things here, some default settings in my CSS style sheet in my HTML page. But just follow along. The core of this will be in the body, and I'm going to keep adding styles. But again, in another video you can find my whole setup, but none of that will really affect if you follow along on what to do here. So let's get started. So to do this, generally the strategy is I'll look at the page first to understand the layout and to know where I'm going to be going with this. And right away I can see that I can visualize how I'm going to code this by looking at the layout. And right away I see the logo, then the text field, then these two buttons, then another row. So generally this is a very straightforward, very simple layout. It can basically be done in 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 div tag, kind of 4 divs. Just see like these 4 blocks, one across here, one across here, one across here, one across there. Let's just get started. So first, I'm going to create a main area, which is just the whole page. And now I'm going to go in and code my main, and I'm going to say give it width of 100%, height of 100%. And let me actually load my, let me load it in my web host. Okay, so what I did was I have a XAMPP local server running on my Mac, and I have it right here. Here's a blank page. This is where I'm going to be building this page. So again, not in this video. All that setup can be in other videos, but let's just get started. And again, maybe making some mistakes here. This is live, and I want to show you the thought process behind a developer as they build things. So here we are. So you have a main area. Actually what I like to do so you can see, and it's nice to visualize, especially when you're showing someone what things look like. So I like to show a border, which will generally be removed, and obviously you don't want to have it, but I'm going to make a border on every single div tag. So I'll put like a 1px solid red, and I'll add it to like main, section, and some of the other tags. So if I refresh the page, you could see my main. Actually, let me make it a little thicker so that it's a little more obvious. So you can watch as I'm laying this out. So the main tag here is width of 100% and the height is 100%. So I'm just creating like a big main layer. Then what I want to do is I want to put all these in one big block also, so I can have that centered. And then at that point, if I want to move it, it's fine. So we'll put here, let's say, master block. And obviously naming these variables is always so difficult. It's your choice, but I try to name them. It's something that, resembles what it's doing. So here I'm going to have a master block, and maybe I'll just give it a width of 100%, and I'll leave the height alone as it'll expand, in accordance with whatever I'm adding here. So refresh the page, and you can see here, it's all the way up here at the top. What I want to do is, let's push it down a bit. So let's move it, let's say give it a margin top of, let's say 300 px. So That's a bit too much. So let's say 200. Let's say actually 150. Okay, so that's about right. This is where the block I want to start, kind of like right here. And as you can see, like it's just one line because it doesn't have a height yet. But once I put content, that'll get pushed down. So I'm gonna right click. I want to save this Google logo for the sake of the tutorial. And let me put it here under images, and I will put logo dot. I don't know what it is. I'll just save it as logo. I don't know if it's a PNG. Oh, it's a PNG. So I'll save that. Now I'll go here and I'm going to place it. I'm going to create every one of these. I'm going to give them a block. So for the logo, I'm going to say dot logo. Refresh the page. Nothing in there. Just create another layer. I'm going to reduce the size of these things because they're a little distracting for me. Say 2. And then back to my logo. Now I'm going to add the image. So it's going to be under images. It's going to be logo.png. Refresh, and now I got the Google logo right there. Obviously, I want to center it. I want to make it a little smaller. So what I'm going to do is scroll down. I'm going to say .logo and image. We want to, so the image that's in the logo, I want to give it a margin of 0 px on the top and bottom and auto on the left and right so that it will, and then you got to give it a display block, and we'll refresh it, and you see here now it's centered. So no matter what happens, it's always centered. And I'm going to give it a width of about, let's just see what this looks like, 300 px. Look at that. So yeah, not bad, not bad. I think it's a little smaller, so let's say 275 px. Yeah, it's about right. It's funny, this one looks a lot crisper than the one that I downloaded. So that's interesting. But yeah, I have it a little higher here, as you can tell. I could also probably push this down a little more. But they also, you can see here, they have a longer width, but mine's responsive over here. So all right, so we got the Google logo. Let's do the next block. I just like to look at this, make sure. Let's push it down a little more. Push down the master. Let's say 60 pixels. Yep. All right, that's good. And then let's make the next block for the text field. So let's do, I would say dot search bar. So now we have the search bar, and just gonna put a input field. So input, which is the text field, input tag class. I will give it a search. Let's just say class search. All right. So if you see here, it's right here. It's a very like old school, ugly looking, input box, but I'm gonna make it nicer. So with some beautiful CSS. So I'm gonna make give the next class search bar, and we'll say dot, called it search. Okay, so now same thing. I'm gonna give it a margin of auto on left and right. Display block, and it's centered right here. And it's obviously much bigger, so we want to say width, let's say 340. I'm guessing here, and I'm gonna reduce the red borders again, and you can see here it's kind of hard to see. I'm gonna get rid of the borders for now, so you can see this box. Also, what I want to do is I want to create some padding underneath the Google. So what I'll do is I'll create the logo class, and I'll give it a margin bottom. Let's say 40. 20px. I like pushing it down a little bit. Okay, maybe even a little more. And now we're going to, let's make this box look a little better. This input field. Let me actually take away the sidebar in my, so you can see more of the code. All right. So let's give this a height of 40px. See what that looks like. That's about right. Maybe 45. But let's give it some padding, because you can see here that as you type, there's a large area of padding as I type here. Yeah, you can see that. So it's about the same. Let's increase the font size. Let's say 18px. See what that looks like. Yeah, it's about right. I think it's a little larger. I think we should make smaller. Yeah, it looks about right. As you can see here, this is going much longer, so let's make it longer. Let's say 500px. Yeah, that looks about right. Okay, so now I can see there's like a little radius, very subtle radius. So I'll say border radius, let's say 2px. So you could see it's kind of, there's a corner there. Now what you want to do is, for these shadows, we can give it a border 1px solid, let's say here. Now I gave it a color, got rid of all those shadows, and that's about right. It's about right. Now what we want to do is give it a shadow around the left, bottom, and right. And for these things, it's very difficult often to remember the syntax of, creating some of this code, especially for all of the different browsers. So you could just search this stuff up and you usually find these blocks and generate CSS generators available that you copy the code. So it's pretty easy. So what I would do is just search, CSS box shadow in Google. Scroll down, usually find some sort of generator, which just helps you, make the perfect settings, and then gives you the code. And it's really just box shadow. It's really one line of code, and those are just the property names for the different browsers. The second and third one, but it's really just one line. But you can, make it look kind of like how you want to. So let's give it bottom. Let's give it a blur radius. Then spread it not that much, more subtle. Spread it out in the center there, and give it a blur radius a little more. I think that's good enough. It's very subtle. So I can take this block, copy it, and I'm gonna put it right into the search. So there's the box shadow. If I want to adjust it, I would just go back into the generator and refresh. Look at that. So ours is a little more harsher, probably a little more, but that's fine. I think it works. Let's look at that. So there we are. Looks nice. I like it. It's perfect. Almost looks like Google's website. This is pretty cool. And so now what we're going to do is, let's create the buttons. We won't be doing this. This is advanced animation. We focus on just creating the button. So let's create another div, another container over here, and let's just name it buttons. just knowing that's going to hold the buttons, and I know that I'm going to be creating 2 buttons. So I'm going to create I'm going to do it with the A tag. I don't know, I prefer it, though you can use the button if you want. I like to use just the A tag, so I'm going to give it a.btn, and that's basically A tag with the class of btn. I'm going to call this one Google search, and I'm just going to give it a null. It's not going to do anything, not going to go anywhere. But now if I go back and refresh, I have a funky, looking link, but I'm going to style it up, make it look nice. So first, let's go back and let's make the buttons. And let's also give this a margin 0 auto. Actually, let's give it some margin at the top. So 20px. And let's display block. And let's just text align everything there, because that's what it's going to be. So now I have it moved right in the center there. Let's add some more. Let's give it 60px. Yeah, I think that's a little better. And we don't need the bottom for now. I could say 0px. So top, right, bottom, and then the auto's left. So we won't give any margin underneath for now. So now let's go back and let's create the second button. And what I can do is, what I love about Sublime is that I can copy. It's very easy with just command. So I'm just Shift Command D, and I have a second block of the same exact code. And what I need is I'm feeling lucky. There I am. Perfect. And what you want to do is give these. Oh yeah. So now let's create. Now we're good with the container that holds the buttons. Now let's actually design the buttons. So buttons.a.btn. And let's give them a display of inline block so that they stay inline but are also blocks. So that's about right already. They're already kind of doing it by default here. Then what I'm going to do is, now watch what happens when I give them a background color. What you can do is inspect this page. I don't know what inspect and find what color. That looks like it's just very light gray, which is usually just CCC. But here you can get this. Copy that hex. Oh, there it is right here. That's the hex color of the background. And now we're going to go in. I'm going to close this out. Go in and give it a background color. Now if I refresh, look at that. It's right there. It's the same color. Obviously, it still looks bad. I mean, it's not designed right, so let's give it some padding. The padding is, let's just see what this 20px looks like. Look at that. It's starting to look more like buttons, but obviously it's much larger. So it's just playing with these variables. So the top, I think is much less. Let's say 14. That's getting closer. Maybe 12. Yeah, I think that looks about right. And obviously the color is black of the actual text. So now, see that? And the font, I'm not going to be doing, web typeface here in this video, but what I'll do is use the basic font, which is Arial, that's what it looks like already. So just using like a default browser font. Oh, Arial, buttons.a.btn. Let me actually just clear my browsing data. Just make sure it's picking up. So it's not picking that up as Arial. Let's see if we just do a Helvetica. So maybe the default of Chrome is neither. Oh no, there's a mistake here. I thought so. Okay, there we are. So just, oops. So there it is. So now we have Helvetica here. Arial actually. So that's about right, but it looks a little bold. So I'll go back over here and I'll make these, give them a font weight bold. And typically you'll use, custom web fonts, but for this I'm just using the default for the sake of the tutorial. So if I refresh, You can see that they are bold, which is very similar. It's just that they're smaller and they're more gray at the Google website. So if we do color, we do 666. It's ironic, but I always remember that. It's just so easy to remember. That is the dark. Very similar. Look at that. And now we're gonna do the font size. It looks like it's very small. So let's try 14. That almost looks about right. You can see that the Google is all a little smaller, so you can make it a little smaller, but I think this looks nice, like for resembling the site. You don't have to make it exactly, but it looks about right. And I could see that, to me, it seems that there's less letter spacing. So what you could do is you could even reduce the letter spacing if it, -1 pixels, kind of, which is like kind of tracking in design. That's maybe a little too much, but just for demonstration purposes, you can kind of see what is possible there. So let's just go back. It didn't look exactly right, but that's how this all works, and it's not the exact same font, and that's why it looks a little different. But you can see here, I think there's also like a very, very, very slight border, and there's a border radius. So I'm going to do the same border radius. I think that the same one that was on the input field, I think it was 2px. It's very subtle. You can barely see it. And I think that there's like a border on here too of like 1 pixel solid. I don't know. We can do something very light. That's even lighter than that, but just for the sake of the tutorial, we'll leave it alone. You can choose whatever color you want. But again, the button's a little smaller. Let's make them a little smaller for fun. 10, let's try that. And then 18, reduce the padding. That's about right. And if you want, you can get rid of the border. Or we can, let's do it on hover. Maybe that's what it is. So let's get rid of, actually, I think this looks better. So I'm just going to copy this whole block. But get rid of everything. I just want it to be on hover. So I'm going to get rid of the border. But now I made another property and just on hover. So now if I refresh, boom, 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 boom. Now the cool thing is, so you can see just on hover, it's doing the same thing. And you can see that it kind of moves a little bit, like it gets a little larger and smaller, and that's something that kind of used to bother me a lot. I was like wondering how to fix that. So how do you fix that is that you give it's doing that because it's essentially the original button doesn't have a border. And when you hover, it's adding that 1 pixel border. That's why it's like kind of getting bigger. So what you want to do is put a pixel, put a border on the original one, but keep it the same color as the background so you kind of can't see it. Like, look, for example, if I put it here, you'll see it, but you want to make it the same color as the background so you can't see it. But now when you hover over, the size doesn't change. So, and it's interesting, Google seems to use they don't use the finger. So what you can do is change the cursor. So the cursor could be cursor default. They're using the default arrow. So now you can see. Look at that. Boom, boom, boom. It's looking great. You can see the padding underneath is a little too much. So I'm going to bring that the margins. Let's reduce the margins of the buttons from the top. Because, yeah, they're much closer, as you can tell. What else? This is about right. I think that's about right. Okay. And this is what it's all about, It's like looking and measuring, and if you're, I'm really a stickler for getting it pixel perfect and trying, to make it look good. Obviously, there's little differences here and there, but I'm not going to bother with the super subtleties. I want to show you the core of this, and that's it. I think we have one more line. So let's add that next container. So under the buttons container, I'm going to do another one called dots. I'll just call it footnote, whatever it is. And I'm going to copy this information, check out how businesses in New York do whatever. I'm going to refresh again. It flushes to the left. Now we got to kind of also bring this back. So we'll call this dot footnote. So we want to center all this again. So text align, center, give it some margin, 20 pixels auto, refresh. There we are, right in the center. Yep, I think that's about right in terms of padding and distance. And then we want to give this font. So now just add with a comma, just adding it. It's also going to be Arial. There we are. And you can see here it's very small. So we'll give it a font size of, it looks like it's 10. Oh, whoa, no, it's definitely not 10. It's a bit too small. That looks about right to me. Yeah, that's about right. I'll give it a little more padding. So that looks about right. It actually looks like Google's homepage. I don't think anyone would ever tell. So finally, what we can do is I can show you. So I was debating whether to do this. Let's just go ahead and do it. Let's add the little microphone icon and put it here. But overall, we're pretty much done. Let's just do this last thing here. So what I'm gonna do is, I wonder if this is. I'm gonna screenshot it. I'm just gonna screenshot it, and then we could just put it in for now. I'm gonna move this. Call it mic.png, and I'm gonna move it into my folder images. So there it is. Now I have it. So now let's go in, and what we want to do is probably gonna I'm gonna make it an absolute div and flush it to the right and put it inside the box. So put it inside where the search bar is. So we have the search bar, and the search bar, let's give the search bar the same width. Oh, that's fine. Yeah. So the width is 500. Okay, so let's put it under here. So let's say mic, and let's put the image mic.png. So we're making another div. Whoops, refreshing the wrong page. So now look, it's all the way over here. So what we want to do is kind of get it flush. So I need to, well, number one, I want to give it an absolute div, which is inside the search bar. So let's say dot search bar and then dot mic. And let's say position it absolute. Refresh. And now you could see it reduced that because now it's just kind of like absolute over. It's not pushing down anything else, so it's not relative. But in order to make sure it stays within the search bar container, you have to make sure that that search bar, I don't have the div here. Let me make it the original search bar. It has to be a relative position. Okay, so now I'm going to flush the mic to the right. I want to bring it all the way to the right. So as you can see, it is all the way to the right. So let me inspect this and see why it's going all the way and not staying within the search bar. And that's because the search bar is going all the way edge to edge. So what we want to do is make sure that the width is not all the way to the edge. So let's say the search bar will be the same width. So I'm going to bring it down. Okay, so now it's there, but now it kind of moved over. So we also have to give this margin auto, like center it. So auto left and right, so now it's centered, and now this thing is staying there. Before it was all the way to the right because the search bar, which is invisible, you couldn't see it, not the search input, but the container that held it was all the way left to right. So we brought it back 500 pixels, so now we can move this up. So now let's put it at the top just to see it flush. So there, it's like right there. Now we also I'm gonna copy this block. I want the image of the mic, which is inside the mic tag. I want it to be very small. Right now it's very large. So let's say 20 pixels. That's too big. That's too small, I mean, so I'll say 30. That looks probably right in the middle. Yeah, that looks about right. Looks about right. I think it's 24. So now we're going to just kind of play with this positioning so that it will stay kind of like centered. I'll move it. Whoops. Over here. Let's move it 10. Wow. Look at that, guys. Look at that. I think it's in even a little more. Look at that. And to me, we just built the Google homepage. Alright guys, if you enjoy this, subscribe and follow so that we can do more of these fun little things. I think it's great because we'll be able to show you how to build actual real things that are out there. And was a lot of people, what I found when I first started was that learning how to code, you can learn the fundamentals, which you have to learn the fundamentals, but the most difficult thing about coding is actually implementing it and building something real. Then you kind of forget, like, oh my god, how do I put all these pieces together? So I showed you how we can build the Google homepage, just watching us do it and seeing the thought process behind it. And just go ahead and subscribe so you can see more. I'm gonna do more of these. Tell me what you want me to build in front of your eyes next. So there we have it. Enjoy, guys. I love this. Take care.